Anyways, this was happening outside of the convention. The NDP has started their new era by calling the cops on Eve Angler. And as it all sounds very cynical, because I don't want to sound cynical, but it's important to understand the structure clearly is actually more useful than any type of false hope or paralyzed despair. And what this convention reveals, and what the lost Jagmeet decade revealed, and what the Avi Lewis candidacy and now leadership era reveals, is not that the NDP is run by bad people making bad choices. It's that the NDP operates under structural constraints that define what it can and cannot be. And those constraints are actively enforced by named and unnamed officials through mechanisms that bypass member input entirely, the entire democratic process. They have been enforced consistently for 75 years, going back to the very beginning of the party. And the thing is, and this is the thing people need to understand, that consistency is itself information. It tells you something real about this institution, what it is, and what it exists to do. Social democracy inside the imperial core is not a transitional form towards something more radical. It is a containment mechanism. It functions to absorb the energy that might otherwise build genuinely disruptive left power and channel it into forms that the system can manage. It does this because everyone involved, this is a better way to say it. It does this not because everybody involved is cynical or because they're corrupt, because most people, for the most part, up until now, very much so, aren't. But it's because there are structural incentives of operating inside the electoral system, inside the parliamentary order, inside the funding relationships and media relationships and legal relationships of a settler colonial state. Those incentives select for a certain type of politics and more specifically against another. And the NDP can criticize austerity, but not capital. It can condemn war in general terms, but not the specific alliances producing it. It can absorb symbolic dissent, but not organize around structural opposition, because it will always condemn resistance at the end of the day. And what that means for people on the left in Canada trying to figure out what to do with an NDP leadership contest in 2026 and what this means. It doesn't mean don't vote in the next election or by election, or if you're an NDP supporter, don't not support them. It doesn't mean disengage. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Abstention is not radicalism. The system needs your apathy. But it does mean that being very clear eyed about what we're engaging with and why and what we expect to get out of it voting tactically inside a managed system is a tactic. It's not a strategy. And the people who were expelled, the people who were blocked, the people who were standing outside in the cold in Winnipeg this weekend, those are the people who understand the difference between a tactic and a strategy. And they understand it better than most of the people inside that fucking building today, and inside of that party. And that's what it comes down to. It's that organizing capacity that raised money, that had a grassroots base, that showed up for Eve Angler, that showed up for Bianca, that showed up for the NDP Socialist Caucus, despite all of their flaws and faults, because I will say there are countless flaws with Barry alone. But even then, they did all of this without party membership. They did all of this without any type of institutional backing. And that energy is all still there. And now it's been demonstrated to many people that there's no path for that energy within the NDP anymore. It's been excluded from the room. And but just because it's excluded doesn't mean it's just going to disappear. The question is what next? What builds next? And that's a question worth sitting with for a while as they debate the policy for this next NDP opposition, or not even opposition, this next NDP iteration under Avi Lewis. So yeah, we'll see what it is. I'm not going to hold my breath. Like I said, remember how they flew the flag of Palestine on the stage the day that Avi Lewis became leader of the NDP, and watch how fast they abandoned that symbol. All right, that's it for me. Thank you for listening. Talk to you later.